the enthusiasm, let's start screaming! Let's get the applause going now for a fantastic break club of Naomi Schaefer! Go on!
I have trouble with what we computer scientists call context switches, or my therapist calls transitions, or the audience in a comedy club might call the bits in between jokes. So I've actually given up on it entirely. It'll be obvious. I begin. I'm an artificial intelligence researcher. In particular, I work on language modeling, which means that I teach a computer to predict the next word in a sentence. That sounds like a very artificial task, but in fact, it's essential to how humans process language. So, if I'm talking, you're listening, you will be very confused if I say an unexpected banana. Transition. So, I want to talk to you tonight about something that scientists don't tend to talk to the public about because we would prefer that you view us as too pure to discuss the F word. Funding. Yes, I just do whatever work I find interesting, but you always have to ask yourself, who else finds this interesting? And if you mean who reads my papers and who cites my papers, then the answer is nobody. But if you mean who has given me money, the answer is mostly evil. And I know what you're thinking. Really? A computer scientist is going to stand up on a stage complaining about funding? Don't you know there's kids starving in the philosophy department? I have the same problem. I have the same problem as anyone in this world. See, I hate capitalism, but I love money. Transition. I worked at Facebook for a summer, and they rejected one of my ideas for being too creepy. Transition. Do you ever look at your Facebook ads? There was a year when I was only getting ads for military chaplaincy recruiting and cocaine rehabilitation centers. That means that Facebook's statistical model believed that I was a deeply spiritual stimulant addict whose soul was up for sale to the military-industrial complex. I guess 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Transition. I think a lot about scientists of the past who have received evil money. Does anyone know Werner von Braun? Bad person. So, I've had something of a family connection here in that my grandfather fled Nazi Germany in the 30s. That's before the war for you history buffs. And ended up working on the Apollo project. NASA at the time was run by von Braun, who also fled Germany, but after the war, because he was a Nazi. But he was a great rocket scientist. He really aimed for the stars. Occasionally hit London. Well, after the war, the US government gave that Nazi a job, in a harbinger of things to come. So sometimes I imagine my grandfather's first day at work, you know, he goes in, "Hi, I'm your new boss, Werner von Braun." That's my German accent. And there's my, transatlantic refugee grandfather just thinking, did my boat get turned around somewhere? Transition. For a while back in the States, I was funded by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA. So that's a military research funding apparatus, and they're most known for inventing computer networking. So, if you're ever wondering what went wrong with the world, the answer is that while the software behind the internet was developed at a pure science research lab called CERN in Europe, the hardware and systems infrastructure behind it was developed by the US military. So, while the heart of the internet is actually good and pure, the body remains forever sinful. I know it sounds like I will take anyone's dirty money. But actually one time my department tried to switch my funding over to a source that I cannot name but can say is an agency in the Department of Defense concerned with the analysis of large quantities of text data for national security. I declined, though not out of principle so much as because they wanted me to switch my data set from English to Farsi. Okay, I'll take anyone's dirty money as long as they don't tell me what to do with it. I've fallen into that trap before. When I was an undergrad, I worked on a project that was about describing images of objects in terms of the components of those objects. So you describe a bird in terms of its wings and beak, or a plant in terms of its leaves and flowers, or a plane in terms of its vertical stabilizers and missile attachments. But we only really got around to the last data set. I was shocked to find out that our funding did not come from the Royal Birdwatching Society. Transition! I was at a conference recently and someone came up to me and said, you know, once you finish your PhD, maybe you want to come work for an agency in the Department of Defense concerned with the analysis of large quantities of text data for national security. And I said, no thank you, I can never pass clearance. I'm doing a terrorism right now. That's not actually why I can't pass clearance. I can't pass clearance because I've seen the letter that a friend of mine received from the government rejecting their application for clearance. It said, while you did specify it would have to be something, quote, totally ridiculous, end quote, such as, quote, designing concentration camps or something, end quote, you did express a willingness to divulge top secret information, and so we must reject your application for clearance. Now, first off, frame that shit. Put it up on the wall. But once you see it, you're never going to pass a polygraph test. Not unless you're willing to design concentration camps for the US military. Transition. A while ago, I was scrolling through some teen cybersex chats. It was the data set I was working with at the time. By the way, teenagers, very boring cybersex. Oh, I'm going to pound you with my large penis. Oh, your penis is so large. Anyway, I was scrolling through them and I sort of froze up and I thought, is this the future I'm building? One where you can't even describe your genitals in detail to someone pretending to be a 15-year-old girl on the internet without some creep judging you while debugging a neural network? I don't want that future. Maybe someone can fix that future, like someone in the philosophy department, like in exchange for food. And set.